actually broken down by fungus. I mean, that's falling asleep on me, Rob. Getting a little sciencey. I haven't even got that. That was like pretty surface level stuff there. We didn't even talk about ice lensing or anything.
I already started nodding off, but go ahead with your fungus.
Welcome everybody to the Fine Homebuilding Podcast. It's our weekly discussion of building, remodeling, and design topics aimed at anybody who cares deeply about the craft and science of working on houses. I'm Justin Fink, and I'll be your host. I'm joined by editorial director Rob Yagid. Say hello, Rob.
What's up, Justin?
And design editor Brian Pontolilo.
Hey, guys.
Welcome, gentlemen. If you're new to the show, also welcome. If you're old to the show, welcome back. Today, we're going to catch up on what's been keeping us busy over the last couple of weeks. We haven't done that in a while. Then turn into questions about protecting against lightning strikes, the right way to set fence posts, and ideas for how to build a house in phases. But before we really get rolling, let me stumble over the lines a couple more times. But before we really get rolling, let me remind you of our email address, fhbpodcast@taunton.com, where you can send us your questions and topics for discussion. And finally, this is our first episode being shot on video. So if you're watching us on YouTube, on the Fine Homebuilding channel, then you'll be able to see some of the photos we normally post to the show notes blog at finehomebuilding.com/podcast, or right here on this TV behind my shoulder, or woven into the narrative of the show with a little help from our genius producer, Jeff Rose. And so anybody who is not watching us on YouTube, they can. So we're trying this. We're about a year in with this podcast.
Wow. That went by quickly.
Yeah. We're not quite a year because we did a one or 2 weeks where we had multiple episodes, so threw the numbering off a little bit. But we're pretty dang close. So what better way to take us into the second year, I thought, than expanding it. So now just a different way to listen, different. Some people like to consume it on YouTube, so they can consume it on YouTube and see, how see all the faces that Rob makes behind the scenes when we ask him questions that he doesn't like.
Exactly.
Or how pissed I get when somebody knocks into the microphone.
That just reminds me, too, that I believe I promised a big hoopla for our 50th
This is it.
episode.
Oh, yeah.
This is it?
Well, this isn't the 50th, but this is the big hoopla.
Oh, the video.
Yeah.
Is the big hoopla.
That's the big hoopla.
I delivered.
I think we need more hoopla.
Yeah.
There's a stripper in this table right here.
Oh.
They're going to pop out.
Okay.
We had to do something.
Yeah.
All right. That'll get some views on YouTube, I think.
Yes.
It'll get us kicked right
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have worked too well if we didn't add the video.
Right. It's gonna be great on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I mentioned, it's been a while since we've kind of caught up on what everybody's working on. I have been at work on my porch. Brian has been at a AIA conference, the Architect, what does that stand for?
American Institute of Architects.
American Institute of Architects. I don't deal with the design stuff, all right? That's Brian's job. And Rob has been actually working on his basement again, just like in episode 1.
As always.
Just like in episode 1. We're bringing it around full circle to end the
Full
year.
circle. That's the hoopla. Yeah. I'm almost done, by the way. I think I say that every time it comes up in the podcast. I say, yep, almost done.
Sometimes you just get mad if we bring it up.
Yeah.
There's a point where projects start to feel like that.
I think I'm almost done, though.
on the second week of them. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Hey,
almost
punch
there.
list.
I'm almost
I
there.
got the punch list. My punch list included a complete built-in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. What did you dig up some pictures? We're gonna make sure those get up on the show notes blog.
I could take some pictures.
Well, you showed me a couple of the tile.
Oh, yeah, a little detail of the tile.
Give us the highlights. What is the built-in and how'd you make it?
Oh, so the built-in is pretty basic. It's just a big 8-foot-long open box. It's an open box with a face frame because my wife bought these these wire linen baskets. So like all the dirty laundry goes in these big wire cages with white linen liners in them. Kind of like a rustic kind of farmhousey look.
Yeah, I like that.
And
So-
they pull out?
You just kind of
like a drawer?
Yeah, you just take them out, you could swap them out and bring them upstairs. And
So they're not on runners.
they're not on
okay.
runners.
They're just sitting in
They
there.
just sit in there.
Where'd you get them from?
I think she bounced around to a couple of home goods stores.
Oh, okay.
Because you go to those stores and they'll have one or two, and then you go to the one across town and you'll find one more. And
Right.
Yeah.
So she definitely hunted those down. So that's basic. Just painted like this. I'm actually pretty psyched about the color
is killer.
palette. Yeah, I don't know the exact Benjamin Moore color. I'll find out.
Yeah,
but
you
it's
got to
like
dig that up because that is so hard to get the right color of grayish, bluish. It's gray green, maybe. I
It's
guess
like a
yours?
greenish. Yeah.
That's you got to share that because
Yeah.
that is a real struggle, and it's a great complementary color to the natural wood top that you have.
Yes. Went with a very basic pine top. So
We did talk about countertop materials.
we did talk about countertop materials, and this, I as Justin probably pointed out, I overthink everything. And then I think about it a little bit more, and then I plan a little bit more, and then I do a little bit more research. It's just crazy. So that's why, most of my projects just take forever because I'm constantly analyzing the options.
Project paralysis.
Project
you like to call
paralysis,
it.
which I like to call it,
Yes.
I've referenced before, where you're just standing there, like running through all the options.
Yes.
And it's a sickness here because we've just had the benefit of seeing so many
Yeah,
projects.
being exposed.
Yeah. And so the top, just endless. I was like, I'll do some maple. I'll get some reclaimed fill in the blank.
Paint
You know
us
what
the
I mean?
picture of being in the aisle choosing the.
So,
Did you hear this?
No.
so I was like, you know what? I'm going to Home Depot because my lumberyard is not really open on the weekends. And I was like, I'm going there. I'm coming home with the countertop material. I don't know what they're going to have there, but I'm coming back with something. I'm going to make it. I'm going to install it. And so I went to see, I was like, oh, poplar. Like, maybe I could do something with that. I could see the oak. I could see clear pine. And literally, I'm just standing there, rifling through,
That's pretty much the aisle.
yeah, the aisle.
Couple
you know what
more
I mean?
things.
And then tongue and groove and
Yeah.
then shiplap and all that kind of stuff. And my wife was just watching me, shaking her head. Because I was like, of course, I was calculating costs per, lineal foot and rifling through to see the best quality stock. It was she's like, we got to go. We have to leave. This is madness. She's like, just pick something. I was like, can't do it. So whatever, I found the cleanest tongue and groove boards that I can, full length, because I think the countertop is almost just a little over 10 feet. I didn't want any butt seams, butt joints.
Did they have the that pine that I got recently that has the milled surface on one side, the bandsaw pine? Did they have that at your store?
Are you talking about
some
the stuff they call
knots.
they use it for batter boards and stuff? Or?
No, not the stuff I built the shed out.
No. This has
We'll get a picture of that shed up.
this is
for sure.
tongue and groove. One side has
Love
an
that
added bead milled into the face. You know what I'm talking about, Brian?
Is one side beadboard?
Yeah.
And the other side just a V groove?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
essentially. So
Yeah.
I just did the V groove side up because it
Yeah.
got a little bit too busy. Glued that up, thickened the edge.
It's a weird choice for a countertop, though. Of all that whole aisle, you seem to have chosen the one that's
Yeah.
the most odd.
Well, it was the least expensive, and I realized
Bandsaw pine would have been cheaper. I don't think
didn't
you
have
would have
it.
been getting that in the long lengths.
Yeah.
But this is a
And the-
laundry
yeah,
cabinet, not like a
right. And the
those
lengths that I
grooves don't
wanted.
matter.
So they had clear pine, which I was like, oh, I'll just edge glue clear pine and be done with it. But they didn't have it in the lengths that I wanted. And remember, I wasn't going to wait. I was getting and
Kylie wasn't going to wait.
yeah. And I thought to myself, I was like, this is a lunchroom. It's not a countertop.
Right.
It's like I'm going to fold some clothes on there, maybe. So
Splinters. Oh,
yeah. So that's going to get a Danish oil finish.
So how
we
did
decided.
you detail the end? The overhang.
And
So you would have had a tongue or a groove at the end of the countertop. You ripped it off, obviously.
Yeah, I
and then
ripped
you
it
just,
off.
Did you just put a chamfer on it, or did you leave it square?
it's square right now, but I'm going to ease the edge.
Okay.
single thickness though. You didn't double it up to give it.
I double the thickness.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You doubled the thickness.
It's like if you don't ask, you don't get an answer.
Yeah.
Right
So,
there.
yes. It's
like-
I ripped it.
Yeah,
so
for the guy who wants more
Yeah,
details.
it's
Yeah.
like pulling teeth.
yes. So I ripped it so that the V grooves were kind of equidistant. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they're not off centered. And then I took the scraps and I thickened the edge with it.
How'd you fasten that sucker?
From the bottom with I think they were
Drywall screws.
GRKs maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, and
Good
so
shoe.
I fixed the back edge, at
Mm-hmm.
the back of the cabinet. Those are just permanent. Then I just made slots in the front edge, and then centered the screws in there so that if it expands, it'll expand out, outwards. And
what's your method for the expansion slots? How do you cut those? Yeah.
You don't want to know.
Well, because I've done it a bunch of different ways. I've actually found that the festival domino is a pretty sweet way to do it because
That
you
is
can make
sweet.
a little oval-shaped hole. But I mean, honestly, if you have a pan head screw, let's say like a pocket hole screw that has the underside of the screw head is flat, then you could do it with a biscuit joiner because you could do it with a kerf from a saw. Because what's the difference? You're just
Yeah.
making a trench and it's
Did it with
riding along a trench. It's
did
got
it-
a flat head, so it doesn't need to be countersunk.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of ways. I'm through with the method of drilling 2 holes and then trying to like connect them.
That's what I did.
Yeah. Because it never.
It's a little burly. It's not.
It's lame,
Not
you know?
clean. You know.
Yeah.
So then I got that pine top, which goes really.
Sounds like an excuse to buy a $900 Festool
Yeah,
today.
Yeah.
right. So I have like these charcoal floors, and then that green base cabinet with that natural pine top, and then above the entire wall above the top is just white subway tile with, I forget, dark gray grout. So
I
tiling
did
went
a
well.
wall in Sam's room with that same pine.
Yep.
And used the same side that you used.
Yep.
And it's dynamite. I used it horizontally.
Yeah.
It looks great.
What anything notable about your tile installation? That's a
just
from
realized-
cabinet all the way to ceiling tile install.
Yeah. I just realized I know I was complaining about something when I came in the day
was the
after.
grout.
It was the grout. Like, so it's all about the mix for me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like make sure you have like the right thin set mix. It makes your life a lot easier. It's subway tile, so running bond, so that goes pretty quick.
What is the right mix for thin set? What do you mean by that?
Meaning like it's not too dry, it's not too wet. You're not like it's not setting up like in your bucket because you mixed it too dry. It flows easily, I guess, like off your trowel and when you're notching it and stuff.
Did you do the finger thing?
I didn't do your finger thing.
That's not my finger thing. I learned it from a tile guy. You dip your finger in the thin set and you hold it up, and the thin set should hang off of your finger without falling.
I
It
kind of
should
did
stick
that.
to your
I
finger,
kind of
but
did
it
that.
shouldn't fall off.
I kind of did that with a trowel. I tested it, like if it would stick or not, or if it was just sloping
that
off.
works the same way.
The grout though, I just so I've seen Tom Meehan, who's a frequent contributor. He hasn't contributed in a while, but had contributed a bunch of articles to Fine Home Building. He works on the Cape.
Yep.
Does he own a tile store in addition to being an
Yes.
installer?
Yep. Cape Cod Tile works.
So watching him like grout like tile, it's like it looks easy. It looks like he's like spreading Elmer's glue. Like he's not struggling. I was like, so again, my grout mix. I didn't want it too wet. I want it too dry. Obviously, too wet, too much moisture. It's not gonna be as strong.
Right. It's easier to work with, but it doesn't cure as strong.
Yeah. And so it takes some effort to grout a tile wall. I wasn't like using that float like Tom was. And someone just said, that's because Tom does it every day, and it's like he's got like Popeye arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're a desk jockey, and that's your problem.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Grouting is the most exhausting part of the whole job.
Yeah.
Like and it's sort of like you were mentioning, like in your head, you feel like that should be easy.
Totally.
It's like you're just filling the joints, but
Yep.
it's slow, hard work.
Yeah.
Especially on a wall.
Yeah.
You're dropping a lot.
Yes.
And
That's the other
Yeah, and
thing.
you're wondering, you're not Tom Meehan who's done it, does this every day. You're wondering, did I fill the joint? Do
Yeah.
I need to press more in there?
Yeah,
you're-
totally.
So
Well-
you're probably working way too hard.
Yeah.
so I like to
Packet it.
So
Yep.
you come across with the float kind of flat.
Yep.
Then you come across at more of a raking angle and scrape off the excess, but in sort of a diagonal angle so that you're not digging the grout back out from
Right.
between the tiles. And then once it firms up a little bit, you strike those joints.
I strike the joints.
With a old school guys would use a little wooden dowel. Tom Meehan taught me to use a back end of a Sharpie.
Yeah.
Just the cap of or the the bottom of a Sharpie marker, and just like you would with brickwork with a tuck pointer. You strike which one? I can't remember the order now. It's a certain order that will make sure it's neat versus one that will leave you messy, like horizontals or verticals first.
Yeah.
I forget which way is which. I'd have to
I had
try
not-
it.
I had not
learn
really-
the hard way as usual.
So the tile work that I've done before, I didn't do that step. I just relied on, your first watch. When you first watch out, and the sponge kind of like pulling some of that grout out, to even it out. But yeah, striking is the way it's.
Yeah,
It looks great now because everything is just
And it
perfectly
packs
even
it
and
in.
consistent. And
Yeah.
it helps pack it in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Strike those
and
joints,
if you wait until
everybody.
it's just a little bit dry, then it
Yeah.
kind of falls off.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Smear.
Yeah, it doesn't smear onto the tile. It just kind of
Yep.
almost like it's dry enough that it just I don't know how to describe it. Falls
Yeah.
off.
Yep.
Cool.
So yeah,
Cool.
So,
What about
So we're getting close. I did a second coat of paint in like the laundry room, mudroom area. So really close. All the trim's installed. Everything's done. I gotta hang a cabinet.
Now, I don't
Wall
mean,
cabinet.
I don't mean to put you on the spot,
Yeah.
but is this going to be the year where we start the exterior remodel, or no? We're not sure yet.
This is the year we'll be doing the roof.
Okay, so the
the
dormers
dormers.
and the roof.
Yeah.
All right.
Coming up.
I was doing a little roofing myself. Working on that, tying in that new porch.
How'd that go?
Well, the weather on Saturday, so I got the porch built. I mean, it's framed, and it's got a 1/4 inch or roughly 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch per foot slope on the roof, single direction slope, shed, flat roof, low slope roof. And now and then I have to peel up the shingles along the lower edge of the 2 roof surfaces that it ties into and waterproof it. So I peeled back the shingles on Sunday, a few days ago, and because the weather said it was going to be clear. No problem. I had the thing peeled back. I figured out what I needed. I went down to Lowe's to grab, what did I have to grab over there? Oh, I went down with some of the shingles that I just removed so that I could buy new shingles that matched. So I had a little piece of shingle with me. I went down there. I'm in line at Lowe's, and I'm the next one in line to pay, and I hear this noise. Like it sounds like the air conditioning just came on, and I'm going, that's pretty loud. And then I look out the front of the window of the store, and it is just pouring. And I'm just in my head, I'm just like, freaking figures. Like the weather said it wasn't going to rain today.
Yep.
I'm like, maybe I was wrong. I open up the weather app. It's just cloudy every time slot of the day. Just cloudy. No rain. It rained twice that day after that.
So did you...
Both huge downpours.
Did you
not
get
like
any...
a little drizzle.
Did you get any leaks going on? I mean, into... What would that be? Into your dining room, maybe?
Sort of into the attic above.
Okay.
No, it ended up
No
being
big deal.
fine. But it was just... But that sort of ruins the day because you can't...
It's a little stressful.
Peel and stick.
Peel and stick
peel and
down.
stick doesn't stick
Yeah,
to
yeah,
a wet
yeah.
surface.
Yeah.
So I had to pivot and work on some other stuff. And
Yep.
I'm just getting tired of... I mean, it's my own fault. It's the time of year I'm working on this, but it's like you go one day and you get a good day, and then it rains and everything's soaked the entire day.
Yeah.
And it's just like I'm tired of being in the mud. I'm tired of tarping my tools constantly. It's like, man, I want to move to Southern California or something and just have like a...
Every
or
pro
get one of
out
those
there right
pop-up
there is rolling
sheds.
their eyes. Justin did this for a week, and he's sick of it.
It's not that. It's the fact that I have to... that it's stretched out.
Yeah.
That I'm not just there continuously
Yeah,
with
yeah.
3 guys knocking this out.
Yeah.
It's like
I
set
know.
up, break down over and over again.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's coming along okay. We're going to be working next week. We're going to be doing a little bit of a photo shoot there. We're going to get some photos of tying in the porch trim to the existing trim that runs around the rest of the house. And I spent a lot of time planning how this is going to work. I was up and down a ladder many, many times, taking measurements of the existing fascia and soffit and pieces of trim and angles and slopes of all sorts. Because I'm doing a built-in gutter that's going to be hidden behind this cornice. And so then I took all of that stuff and I lofted it full scale on a scrap of MDF so that I could have that on the table. And partly so I could work out the dimensions, like how far should the porch overhang be, comparison to the overhangs on the house, and is everything going to tie in right, and what are the angles of all this? And so I lofted it out full scale on that piece of MDF so that I could have that, first of all, so I could work it out on there, but second of all, so I could have it on the table when I'm doing the actual fabrication of parts, because now I can put my bevel gauge right on the drawing, set it to
that's
different
cool.
angles. I can then translate that to the table saw for cuts. So that's going to be sort of part of what we're showing in the article, and I think it's going to, for me, it's been super helpful. Like, do your homework up front, figure it all out, how it's all going to tie in. That's like, it's funny because I was showing it to Rodney, one of our art directors, and I was showing him the picture, which we'll put up on the blog, of kind of the condition of the build, where I have the column and the LVL and the rafters and the roof sheathing. And Rodney looked at it, and I was telling him about the trim package, and he goes, we should put this photo in and just have the caption say, this is where the hard part starts. Because it's sort of, it's really hard to design the whole thing so that it fits within the trim package. It's like, we've talked about this before, it's really hard to design it so that it looks like you didn't try at all.
Right.
Like it just goes away, as opposed to, that's weird how you did that and how it doesn't line up right. And so if it all goes well, fingers crossed, it's going to look like it should have been there the whole time, which took an insane amount of hours to figure out how to do. But it's so fun. So fun obsessing about that stuff. So more of that to come. I'll be posting stuff on Instagram as usual.
Cool.
So you'll be able to follow that. And Mr. Pontolilo, you were out last
He
week.
was in his favorite region of the country, I think.
Where was the show? Oh, he didn't go to
I was in Orlando, Florida. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
the old Orange County Convention Center.
The old Orange County Convention. Quick funny story about
Haven't
that.
been there in a few months.
I walked. I got there on Wednesday afternoon, and I thought, and the show was starting Thursday morning, and I thought, I'll head over there. There were some things happening Wednesday afternoon. I thought I'll head over there, and I'll just pick up my credentials and stuff so that Thursday morning I'm all set. I know where everything is, and I'm all set to go. And I had only been to that convention center once before for the Builder Show. And the Builder Show took place. You guys were just there for the Builder Show last year,
Yeah,
right? Or this past winter. The Builder Show took place in the main hall.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know there was another hall. So I went there thinking that AI would be happening there. And there was another convention. There was a different convention happening there. It was like an aerospace convention. And you guys...
Sounds much more interesting. I'm going to this one.
Yeah, so you guys know how it is when you're booking travel and stuff and you're doing it months ahead. You just kind of do it and you forget about it and then you print your stuff the day before it's time to go. So I thought, I was like walking down the length of this hall thinking, I went to the wrong conference. I went on the wrong days. Like, what did I screw up? Like,
the anxiety.
I wasn't sure, but yeah.
Did you think you were in the wrong city?
No, I knew.
Okay.
I knew it was Orlando. It didn't get that bad. I thought I was there on the wrong days. I thought that's definitely what I messed up. I definitely messed up the
You would
days.
have never lived it down.
I know, but luckily I kept walking.
You would have just lied about it, right? Just said.
Yeah, show's great. Yep,
yeah,
totally.
Disney, Universal. I walked far enough that way down at the end of the hall I saw a little sign that had an A on it and said A17 and had an arrow. So I realized you walk over this bridgeway and
an hour later you figured
South
out
Hall
what that
or something
meant.
like that.
Yeah, there was a South Hall.
Yeah.
So American Institute of Architects have this, an annual conference, and like a lot of these trade shows, it includes an exhibit hall floor, and where many of the many building material manufacturers are there. AA is interesting because it includes both residential and commercial, and so the residential stuff is relevant to what we do. The commercial stuff is still super interesting to see. And so the show floor was good. I told you guys about a few products that I saw there this morning. One of the interesting things that I saw was a steel header system from a company called Rhino. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Well, I saw that because you had posted it on the Instagram feed.
Yeah.
And people had some interesting feedback on it.
Yes.
Who had either tried it or have seen it. But go ahead.
Did you see any of the
Explain
feedback?
a little bit more.
What's that?
Did you see any of the feedback?
I did see the feedback.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he posted. I didn't see any of this.
Yeah.
So instead of using a header above your window made from rough sawn framing lumber or from engineered lumber, this is a steel option. It's lightweight steel, and it comes right now in three. I think he said 3, 5, and 7 foot lengths, and they're going to be adding more and more lengths as they build momentum. It's a brand new company, just launched this year, and the principal benefit is to get better insulation above the window. They cost a little more than using framing lumber to build a header, a little less than using engineered lumber. So they're right in the middle there. And then the drawback, and the drawback that I think most of the feedback was about, is similar kind of feedback you get to value engineer framing. Like,
right.
Basically the question is, well, where do I nail stuff to?
Yeah.
So
where do you put that headpiece of trim?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you fasten that if you've
It's
got
the same thing
steel?
we run into when there's advanced framing. Well, where am I going to fasten my casing to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a legit
It
point,
is legit.
right?
Yeah, and someone had mentioned drywall, and there's ways, as we know.
What did someone may have mentioned, like, what about your joints in drywall?
Yeah.
Well, your joints shouldn't be above.
They shouldn't be
the
above
header.
a window, right? Yeah.
Right.
Well, maybe they can be now because this won't move.
Like that big
So
old
now
massive wood header.
This is
will
if you're
shrink.
putting your butt joints up there.
Yeah.
Now maybe this is solving your problem.
Yeah.
That was one of the neat products that I saw. I saw a competitive product from Georgia Pacific to Zip Systems. Sheathing.
Yeah. Oh, what is it called? There's a little bit of
something force. What was it?
I think there's a lawsuit going on there.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
that's
because they're
weird
encroaching on their
because
patent or something. That's allegedly.
There is a lawsuit going on there.
But they're going forward with it. Obviously, if they're
going
at the
forward
conference with it.
What they said was that, unlike Zip, you guys correct me if I get this wrong.
Is it force field or something?
Force field.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, look it up.
With Zip System, the weather barrier is adhered to the rough side of the OSB. And therefore, and I don't know all the engineering behind this, but therefore they have to have a certain type of tape. And the force field, is that, did you find it? Force field doesn't sound right.
Yeah, GP force field.
Okay, the force field, the weather barrier is applied to the smooth side of the OSB, which allows them to use a much lighter weight tape. So is the zip tape a butyl tape?
I think it is.
Yeah, so this is more like,
It's a little bit
this
thick.
is acrylic. This is like house wrap tape. And on the GP stuff.
I think zip tape is butyl.
And,
But I see what you mean. It's more like house wrap tape. It's thin.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
apparently the cost savings is remarkable. If
Zip
you're
tape's
taping,
expensive.
In the tape itself?
and the cost savings are in the tape.
Yeah,
Yeah,
zip
Okay.
tape's expensive.
Okay,
yeah. So that's sort of how they're positioning it as
sold.
as a competitive product. So we'll see. We'll see. It's gray.
The interesting thing about, so is the panel smooth? I mean, is the face of the panel really, is it smooth?
Yeah.
Because
It is.
one thing that when I was down at Huber talking to those folks was that the face of Zip is intentionally rough because it meets similar specifications as a drainable house wrap.
I'm worried about that explanation because
Okay,
this is not, I don't have anything to base it off of except for the fact
so
that
go for it.
well, I'm skeptical of
Yeah.
that. I'm skeptical that they designed it that way
are
versus
you skeptical of John Straub's findings, who worked on it and helped develop that?
he'd help develop the actual product.
Yeah.
I'm just skeptical of the evolution of that. Did they really develop it that way, or did they find out that was a benefit and then they talk about it?
Well, either way. Well,
Let's-
I'm surprised that they don't talk about it because it was actually the first time that I heard of it.
That's what I
Like,
mean.
I've never seen it in their marketing material, but I asked about that textured surface and stuff, and they were talking about the testing that they had done and the consulting work that they had done.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about John
and then-
Straub. I'm the one that wrote the article about John Straub and the.
And then, his performance.
take
So
you
that's
down.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if that.
Did they, I guess, well, one thing that's a little bit different about the AIA show that you had mentioned compared to like the Builder show, for instance, is just the level of information you could get from some of the people working at the
Yeah.
booths. So I was wondering about distribution and things like that, but I'm sure you didn't get any insights,
Well,
whether
they did-
the availability of...
Yeah, they said it's going to be available more and more. They said their info is we have distribution, whatever that means.
All right,
And it's going
step
to be
one.
available more and more. You'll be seeing it in your lumber yards.
Yeah.
The funny thing
Yeah.
is,
Cool.
Brian, do you remember a long time back we did an article with former editor Chuck Bickford, and he did like the future of wall
Sheathing,
sheathing
right?
or something?
Yeah.
I feel like GP had this product back then, but it had a different name.
It may have been, it may have just been bogged down and...
Maybe. Weren't most of those insulating?
Do you remember what the name
In
of that
that
article
article?
was? We'll have to dig it up so
I
Mike
don't.
can put it
but
on
I think
the...
Chuck wrote it, so you can search his name.
Yeah.
Beyond OSB, wall sheathings and multitask. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll make sure that we get this article up. But they had something that we wrote about a GP Nautilus. That's what it was. It was, but I
yeah.
think it was house wrap bedded into OSB. Like it really looked
Interesting.
like house wrap, but it seemed like it came and went. So I'm wondering if this is like Gen 2 of that.
Didn't
concept.
everything in that article come and go?
I think we
Likely.
no Zip is in here.
Except, well, yeah, that's
Yeah.
why. That's why the others went.
Well, yeah.
What else?
Because of Zip.
What else
Well,
was at the show?
The other product that I thought was fascinating that I also posted on our Instagram page, which do you post things on Instagram?
Yes.
Yeah, I posted it. Was
Nailed
and
that.
This is largely irrelevant, but I thought it was brilliant. It's from a company called Oval, and it's a fire extinguisher,
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
and it's oval. And the idea, and it's mostly for commercial construction and commercial buildings, but I thought it was still relevant. The idea is that you can fit this into a 2x4 wall cavity. A lot of commercial building is done with steel studs, but they're still those same dimensions. And so they were looking at solving a lot of problems with ADA guidelines where the fire extinguisher, where it's needed, actually encroaches on the necessary width of a space, of a hallway, for example. And so they were looking to solve that problem, but they came up with a fire extinguisher that now fits in the wall cavity of most homes. So if you want to have fire extinguishers, even if you wanted to have it mounted in like your basement stairway, just inside
out of
the
the
door
way,
or
yeah,
something,
that's
you
cool.
could actually create a little nook in your wall and stick this fire extinguisher
Does they
from
sell like a
Oval in
door
there.
or something?
No, they just sell the extinguisher, I believe.
With probably a mounting bracket, I'm sure, but
They might sell a door. They showed it inside doors, but I just assumed the door was just to show.
Yeah.
Look at that thing. I'm looking at the picture of it.
Yeah. It's dynamite.
It looks like a giant hip flask.
Yeah.
It's like not even oval. It's like
it's
flat.
cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Do you have a fire extinguisher at home?
Yes.
Do you, Justin?
I do.
All right.
I have two.
Right on.
I have one by
Nice.
my wood stove and one in my shop.
Yes.
Do you?
Do you?
I do. Yeah.
So here,
at
I have a
us.
question.
Look at us
then
being
for you
safe.
guys. Once you use your fire extinguisher, if you only use it a little bit,
I think
do
it's
you
shot.
is it shot?
I think so. What, you used it a little bit?
Just a little bit.
Is that when you had that giant bonfire that got out of control?
Something was getting out of control in the backyard. I tried it out.
How
It
was
was
that?
that- it was that bonfire, right?
Were you psyched about
Yeah.
using it? Like, oh, here we go. Finally could use a fire extinguisher.
Well, I was a little nervous about the fire at that point,
Okay.
so it wasn't as much fun as it could have been.
Brian had a fire going so good that it was burning drywall.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good. It's good and hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the materials that were notable from the show. AIA, because architects are required to have quite a bit of continuing education credits. There's a lot of good education happening at the show.
You went to one seminar, I believe.
Which one?
Performance related, correct?
Wall assemblies?
Wall assemblies.
Yes.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you were surprised to see, I've been to the show before, and I use that as a way to gauge where the industry is at, so to speak,
Yes.
or what people are interested in and seem to be engaged in. And I think sometimes we're surprised at how people are just awestruck by some of the basics. Mm-hmm. Is that?
I felt like, and I don't mean this so much, I don't mean this in an arrogant way, so if it comes off that way, I apologize in advance, but I felt like I could have given the seminar based on what we know because we edit this magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you read our magazine, if you build the types of quality of homes that we publish in the magazine, the information was great. Presentation was good.
Yeah.
But if you're paying attention to fine home building, you would have known all this stuff already.
Yeah.
And I went to another one about, it was a more kind of a healthy home conversation, and same thing.
Yeah.
It was basically, if you're going to build high performance homes, they have to be well ventilated. You have to be providing for fresh air for your homeowners.
I think, it's true of our audience too. I think if you listen to this podcast enough and if you read the magazine, you start to get jaded about what you know and relevant to the industry at large.
Yes.
Sometimes it's hard to have a conversation because you might be having a conversation with a contractor or an architect and they're not on your level. Mm-hmm. Not in an arrogant way. It's just, how far back do you have to explain? Like, let's start with the significance of air sealing, let alone like optimizing like an HRV. You know what I mean? Like I find myself confronted with that with a lot. Like, all right, I don't know how far back to go to the basics in order to like lay the groundwork for, to get to the real issue that we're trying to have a conversation about.
You got to get back to the house as a system discussion.
Yeah, all the time.
One of the things that I hadn't thought of until I was at AIA this year was how good that show would actually be for builders.
Yeah.
The education there is not. Some of it is more the aesthetic design and trends, but most of it is pretty meat and potatoes. Building science and building performance and that kind of stuff that, especially, design build guys, design build firms could really benefit from. The education's really good.
And we talk about that all the time, that the most successful projects come from a really tight collaboration between designers, homeowners, and builders.
Yes.
And so I know Justin was joking around about how the AI thing was your domain, but it's nothing to like ignore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
There were some remarkable keynotes, and there was one keynote from an architect who grew up in an African village where there were no schools, and he had the good fortune to have parents or family or somehow people got him to a school in another village. There was this incredible trek every day, and he ended up in getting a scholarship to go to university in Germany and became an architect. And he talked about how, and now he's working back in his village in Africa, and he's building hospitals and schools, and he is doing it all with the local people as the labor, the craftsmen, and all local materials. And I'll find a link to this gentleman's work, and we can put it on the page for this blog. What can be done? He showed me how remarkable what you can do is with just. You need to have the education. You need to have the building science background. You need to understand this. But using the stack effect and evaporative cooling to cool dirt floor school buildings.
Yeah.
And making the entire structure from like the rock that's on the site.
Yes.
Passive cooling is a really interesting concept that we don't. We talk a lot about the stack effect and how it can short circuit your house and lead to energy problems. But we've published a couple of stories about cooling climate houses that have used the stack effect to keep the house cool at night, which is a super forehead slapper. When it doesn't take a lot. It's like build a little spire, a little part of the house that's a little higher, or have some windows up high on the second floor that can open the first floor, and whoop, that's it. You don't need air conditioning. Your house has got a great flow of air constantly.
Yeah, so this guy was just, it was remarkable. It's super inspiring, really neat story, and I think anyone who likes our content would like to see what he's doing and how he's doing it. How he's training people to, not only understand why buildings are important, but also to actually to learn to make things. He's keeping craft alive, in a big way. In a big way. And he's getting people to invest in themselves and their skills in an area where, he said, the way he's put it was the average lifespan is about 50. It's pretty hard to get people to care about much when the average lifespan is 50.
Yeah.
So, it was
different world.
It was an inspiring show as well.
Did you go to Disney?
That's about all I got. I did not.
You didn't ride the teacups?
I didn't ride the teacups. There was a tattoo convention happening at my hotel.
That's weird. I was just going to ask if you got any new tattoos. I don't know why. I thought that.
Because I'm going to Austin next week.
That's why. You got to get a tattoo. Brian always gets tattoos in Austin.
Yeah.
But there was a tattoo convention going on, which I didn't get to go to, but I saw lots of great tattoos in the hotel lobby.
Cool. Yeah. Do it up.
Do you think they were giving out? Do you think people were getting tattoos during the show?
They were going to be the next day. I was talked to some.
Really?
Yeah, I talked to one of the artists.
And
the next day
they were building during the shows. Why not?
Yeah, that's what they do, and they plan it ahead of time. They
book sessions.
They put designs out that they want to do, and they say if you're willing to come to the show,
we'll give you this.
Design you. Yeah,
not bad.
Yeah,
go future goals, Brian. Let's hop to some questions. We got one from Joshua. Love the podcast. It's been a great resource over the past year as I built a home for my family on our 10 acres here in Missouri. I'm a mobile app programmer, but I just love learning things and taking on new challenges. The house is 1,900 square feet and built with polyurethane SIPs, so structural insulated panel SIPs. Fiber cement, board and batten siding, metal roof, geothermal, ERV, and a little wood stove that keeps the place toasty in the winters. We love it. But question we have is in regards to lightning protection. Our land is about 7 acres of field surrounded by a border of trees and then almost completely farmland beyond there. Do we need to do something to protect against lightning strikes? Does the metal roof or tall metal chimney from the wood stove necessitate doing something? I actually found a really great document that I'm going to pass along for the inimitable Michael Moran Altiero to put on the blog. I'm just going to try to figure out the freaking name of it so I can tell you guys. How to protect your house and its contents from lightning. It's published by the IEEE. I think the website is actually called lightningsafety.com or something. I'm going to give it to Mike and he can put it up. But is
it 3 parts?
No, it's long. It's like,
the strategies to protect your house.
You want to know if your information is the same as mine?
Yes.
No. What is your information? This is a manual.
Well, of course, you dig into this and you quickly find opinions that it's a complete waste of time and it's a gimmick. So that's always
lightning
like
rods.
lightning rods and things like that. So you're always like, oh, great, that's helpful. But I think the basic protective measures are a grounded lightning rod, surge protection, and then to protect sensitive appliance, to unplug those appliances and things like that in a real severe weather event.
Well, that's an important. So those are the three things for the three stages, sort of.
That's
three phases.
roughly the three things that typical people could do.
The interesting thing is that it is code required to be grounded, have your house grounded, and certain electrical components grounded. But that is really such a throwback at this point. It doesn't protect the stuff in the house. Like it really, that was never intended. It was never a code that was set into place with computers and TVs and internet connections in mind. That was really to prevent fires and like safety hazards for the people living in the house. So even if you have all of those bonded, grounded stuff that the electrical codes make you do, it doesn't necessarily protect your house and everything you have in it from damage. So then you have to go to that surge route. Mm-hmm. And so this manual that I found, and it is lightningsafety.com. Should be pretty easy to remember, I guess. I don't know why I forgot it. There are basically like whole house surge protectors that you can do. Basically, we could talk all day about this, but this guide is better than it's written really in pretty plain English. It's pretty excellent. It's like 61 pages long. It's totally free, and it explains lightning strikes. It explains as visuals that show you, how it works and where it's coming from, and the different points that you can connect and the different methods to protect against those, and what's required by code versus what you can do as kind of a voluntary protection standpoint. The thing that I don't know the answer to, it falls sort of into the category of like folklore for me, is does it matter that his house is in the middle of the open versus surrounded by tall structures? I don't know the answer to that because lightning is sort of tricky.
I've got a little feedback from a previous Q&A that we received at the magazine where we had Rex Caldwell, who's a master plumber and electrician who we had relied on a lot for the technical information. And someone had asked the same question because they had a galvalume roof that they put on the house, and they wondered if that subjected the house to a greater chance of being struck by lightning, what they should do about it. And so Rex's response was that metal roofs are safe for houses in high lightning areas. He lives in such an area and installed a standing seam metal roof without hesitation. But he doesn't recommend lightning rods because they tend to attract lightning. Grounding your metal roof is optional, although few people bother to do so. Grounding a metal roof has no effect on the lightning itself, but grounding the roof will stop the electromagnetic lines of force generated by the lightning from entering the building through the roof and developing damaging voltage spikes in the house.
Right, which is what we're talking about with the surge. Blow everything out.
Yep.
Sensitive electronics.
If your building is the tallest object around, I recommend installing a 1-inch galvanized pipe taller than the building and a good distance away, and then ground it well. In many cases, this pipe can be strapped to a tree. Otherwise, the pipe will have to be secured in place with guy wires. That sounds a little backwoods to me.
Old Yankee lightning
It sounds
protection.
a little old Yankee protection, but that is just, again, one person's opinion.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. I feel like that. Well, I mean, obviously Rex is way smarter than I am when it comes to electrical.
Yeah,
probably everything else. How does one become a master plumber and a master electrician? Like, settle down, buddy. Just how many careers do you need that are like super high? Anyway, so basically, we're saying run a giant conductor up a tree and protect your house that way, Joshua. So some sound advice there. Now I recommend you check out this document, lightningsafety.com, and Mike will throw a link up there for you. Start there. Kate writes to us, "Hi guys, love the show. I've been along for the ride since episode 1. I'm planning to install a new fence around my property and wondered if you could share some advice on the best way to set the posts so that the fence stays straight along the top and the posts don't rot. I'll likely hire the job out, but I want to make sure the work's being done the right way. Thanks." It's an interesting side note that it's equally important to know that the people you're hiring are doing the work correctly as it is to be able to do it yourself. So
this is one of those. Well, I guess she's not doing the work herself,
likely,
but it struck me as one of those things like they're not going to like the answer to this because the answer.
It's a lot of work.
There's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Compared to what you think. Like, just dig a hole, dig it kind of deep enough, and then set your posts and backfill it and tamp it down and move on.
Just put the dry concrete down there and then
that's,
wet it with a hose, right?
And so that's not what you do.
Yeah. So what you want to walk us through, Rob? I'm going to talk a little bit about rot and sort of what causes that, but What do you see as sort of the better way to do it?
Well, the way that we've talked about it in the magazine, and we could have a debate about this, is to actually each post be set on a concrete footing. Yes.
Yeah, nobody's doing that.
I know.
Who was the editor of that article?
You're featured in all the photos, and I think you may have been the author.
Oh, that was a vinyl fence.
Yeah.
That was different.
Sure. But similar, you want to dig a hole, and ideally you want to dig that hole below frost line. You want to set that post on at least a 6-inch bed of gravel, and you want to backfill that hole with gravel as well. My understanding is that you don't want to backfill that hole with dirt, because that dirt is going to hold moisture. It's going to freeze. It'll kind of thrust the post upwards. As that soil thaws, it's going to leave a void that will then be backfilled with dirt, so the post will never be able to settle back down to its original location, and essentially just going to, seasonally, just going to be forced up and up, up and out of the ground.
Wait, so does this go down to frost depth then?
Yes.
Did you say that? Sorry.
Yep, I did. Yeah. Whereas the gravel, if you backfill with gravel, that doesn't retain moisture; it drains away, and so you're not going to get that kind of heaving effect.
So,
yeah.
Oh, we're about to hear how you did it at your house, Brian?
no. But there's no way in hell that I'm digging a fence
I know.
post to frost depth. I might put some gravel around the post,
I know.
but I'm not going 42 inches below grade for a fence post.
Yeah.
I know.
No. Kick some dirt aside. Get that thing plumb.
But
Put some gravel
so
in
have the
there.
expectation, I guess, right? So you're not going to have a dead straight level
For very
fence
long.
for very long.
Right.
And maybe that's cool.
Maybe. I guess it depends what kind of fence you're installing and all of that.
Yeah.
Well, but you have to understand that, like, when a fence company comes in, they probably have a little mini excavator
totally.
or a little bobcat
Sure.
with an auger.
with an
on it.
auger on it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So at that point,
If they're doing it, yeah.
Well,
In fact, demand that they do
okay.
it.
So she wants to know the right way to do it.
Yeah, and you gave it
don't
to
have
her.
Brian do it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't have Brian
You
do
gave
it.
it
Don't do
to
it
her.
yourself. Pay somebody with an auger. Because I think ideally, it's critical to get to below
But let's talk
frost
about
depth.
if we talked about rot on the show before. I feel like we may have talked about it a long time back, but I don't recall.
I don't think in this context.
I don't think so.
There's a lot of misunderstanding about rot, especially the term dry rot, which people love, which is not really a thing. It's wood doesn't decay because it's wet. It decays. It's actually broken down by fungus. I mean, that's you falling asleep on me, Rob. Getting a little sciencey. I haven't even got.
I know.
That was like pretty surface level stuff there. We didn't even talk about ice lensing or anything.
I already
with-
started
with
nodding
your-
off. But go ahead with your fungus.
Basically, there's if you imagine a post sticking into the ground, it's what if you dug up a post, let's say that's stuck in the ground for 50 years. What you're going to notice is that the area where it's most likely to have rotted is just below the surface, because right above the surface it can get wet and it can dry out again, and it's okay if wood gets wet and dries out again. As long as it dries out, basically you want it to be less than 20% moisture content, which is going to be sort of, it's got good airflow so that when it rains, it gets soaked, but then it dries out again. The sun hits, it dries out. And you're constantly, seesawing back and forth between dry and wet and dry, and doesn't matter. Where you get into the trouble areas when you get just below grade and then things get wet and they can't dry out. And it's not just the wet, though. It's also the exposure to the oxygen. Because once you have, the number is at least cells consisting of at least 20% air volume. So, yeah, exactly. That's where we get a little technical. But if you get some oxygen mixing in just below the surface, that's where the post is going to rot. If you go all the way down to the bottom of the post, it's likely absolutely fine and fully intact because there's no oxygen down there. So when people talk about, water equals rot, it's really not true. You need to have water and oxygen, and you need to have both those things and have drying be a problem. Now, I understand that there was variables there that could create confusion, like if you have a windowsill, or let's say you have a door trim around your garage that lands near the driveway, constantly gets splashed, constantly soaking up water through that end grain, that's going to be more likely to rot out because of that thirsty end grain is going to be soaking it up constantly. It's got a lot of oxygen circulating through. Maybe it's painted so that it doesn't dry that easily. And that is a typical spot where you'll get some rot. But for a fence post, the trouble area is right below the surface. Let's call it, I don't know, there's a number
6
associated
inches,
with it.
maybe?
No, it goes down deeper than that. I want to say it's like a foot or so, maybe even more. But so if you had gravel around that, if you backfilled with gravel, never mind the frost depth to keep the fence straight. We get that fence level if you're a perfectionist about that. If you don't care about it heaving up and down and being like more like a horse fence, maybe not really concerned about the top being dead level. The thing you want to protect against for rot is to make sure you have the gravel around it so that the water won't sit against it. That's pretty much it. There are some companies that make fence posts that have sleeves that are like fused onto them.
Yeah.
Which is weird to me.
Well, you hear like people like wrapping the bottom of the post with
I don't like that
peel and
idea.
stick and stuff, or that doesn't sound.
I've done it like back in the
really?
day of like when peel and stick was like, we would be wrapping everything in peel and stick.
Yeah.
Like the bottom of a deck.
like you're gonna waterproof it.
Yeah. Well, it was also when all that pressure treated lumber stuff was happening. Everything was in flux. And we were sort of toying with this idea of best practice being isolating your pressure treated lumber from the metal hardware that's holding it. And so at the bottom of a 6x6 post, sitting in a metal post base, I remember a couple of deck jobs where I wrapped peel and stick around the bottom of the post, and then I would stand back and go, "It seems like a really stupid idea," because it's just like it peels off of the post a little bit, and now you have
You're funneling
now
water.
you have a funnel that's holding water
Yeah.
into the post,
Yeah.
and it's like this doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, and it doesn't make sense to me in the in-ground context either, because water's still just sitting there and trapped.
Correct.
So anyway, so that's how you take care of that, Kate. And we'll put the little venom on the name. Sorry, we'll have make sure Mike puts up the how it works department on wood rot that will show you a visual and help you understand a little more about the function of rot and decay. Lastly, we have one from Troy. Troy has written to us a few times. He says, after I'm done remodeling the house on the coast, this is Troy with his evil lair on the cliffside in Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, now he's building a mountain. He's building a
Stop bragging, Troy.
mountain cabin. Apparently, he needs another hideaway. He needs somewhere
He's
else.
done already?
Another evil lair. No, he says after I'm done.
Oh.
So he's going to start another evil lair
Yes.
on the mountain cabin. But he'd like to start in a couple of years, he said. So right now he's kind of in the planning stage. The premise, you're going to love this, Brian. The premise is to build the house with cash, no loans. So it will take a few years, and I'd like to consider building it in stages. So he wants to know, should I build a small cabin to start, say 800 square feet, with the intent to expand it once phase 1 is done? Or should I build the whole shell and then finish the interior as the budget allows? There are a number of trade-offs in this, which I'd like to hear your thoughts on. Also, the concept of building with the explicit intent to expand is an interesting idea. There are structural elements, but also power, plumbing, heat, layout. I could enjoy using it sooner, but it would likely cost more in the long run because it's double excavation, permitting, or is there a hybrid approach? So it's actually kind of a cool question. It's where do you put your money? Do you what?
I know Brian's answer.
Oh, let's hear it. Brian, write your answer down on a piece of paper.
Build the 800 square foot cabin and then stop.
Oh.
It's a good
Design
place-
it well and
It's a
live in
good
it.
place to start and finish.
All right. But no.
He's got to have room for all of his evil implements that he has for his
Figure it out.
empire.
800 square feet is pretty big. Brian lives in an 800 square foot house.
Yeah.
Happy as a clam over there.
Let's just assume that he wants to go a little beyond 800
Yeah.
square feet because let's say, for instance, he said that. So what do we do now? So what do we do here? Do we build this whole thing in phases? Do we build the whole exterior structure and make sure that's all buttoned up and then just slowly work our way through the interior as money
I'd like to
allows?
say that there's kind of too many variables here. And like, yeah.
Never let that
it's
slow
really
us
a
down.
financial
It-
conversation,
well,
though,
it's-
because
it's a-
he is going to spend more money doing it in phases than he would in just.
I think so too. Yeah, and depending on what the design, right? What does he want this structure to, look like and function like? Because it's going to be limiting, could be limiting to the design possibilities to do the phases. Could
Okay.
be, unless the phases work with what he wants for a design already.
What is the downside to to putting all your effort into. So on phase one, you have the foundation. I mean, I guess the downside is that you're spending a lot of money. If you're doing, I was going to say, if you're doing the whole shell first and getting that nailed down, and then let's say you have a 2-floor interior and you do the first floor and
I
leave
like
the
that.
second.
I like the. I'm just going to go right out and say I like the shell idea.
Yeah.
And the reason I like the shell idea, there's a couple of reasons, but one of them is that most of the materials you need to get that part of the work done are inexpensive. They're the more, except for maybe your windows and doors, they're the more inexpensive things, per square foot. It's framing lumber, it's your roofing material, siding is going to be a little, depending on what you use, it's going to be a little more expensive. Windows and doors are going to be expensive, but you're not getting into things like flooring, and I don't know his level of finish, but you're not getting into things like flooring and tile and counters and cabinets and fixtures and that kind of stuff that's more expensive. You get that shell done, it's dried in. This is a mountain cabin. Go camp in it for a while. You can still, it's not, you can't use it, maybe you get a wood stove in there, you start using it, and then you can do those finishing elements.
I agree.
As time allows, as money allows.
That's the way I would be inclined to do it. And Troy did say, I might have edited this out of the question, but he is planning on doing as much of the work himself as he can. So, that does open up a lot of possibilities. I was going to say, if he has to hire a lot of things, then he might get in conversations with the electrician, like, look, how much is it going to cost me for you to leave a place? If I leave you a conduit to later pull wire to the second floor, is that really going to save me any money? Or is he going to be like, listen, I'm already here and this is not going to take me much longer than what I'm already here for. I'm going to charge you more to come back and do it later. But there's a lot of future. A lot of what he's talking about is not a lot different than future proofing. Like planning ahead for adaptability of what you might want to do later. Like even on my porch, I have not, although I don't have plans to open up the roof and extend it and have a little second story porch there. It's built strong enough that I could do that if I wanted to. It's just sort of smart to leave yourself options. So now I definitely want to do it.
We'll talk you into that by the end of next winter.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
We actually have 2 articles on like this phasing design approach by Robert Knight.
Robert Knight, yeah.
One of them was called Building Smaller for Now. The other one was Bobby Knight. Yeah, the basketball coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other one is Starting Small Workout, where these clients of his are in the very same exact position where they were able to buy the land. They wanted to build a house for cash, so they couldn't afford a house right away, but they knew they wanted to live there, and it was going to be kind of a family place. They were eventually going to move there full time, so the needs of that property were going to change over time. And so those 2 pieces kind of just explore that process, like how to design the floor plan so it could be flexible and kind of evolve into a cohesive design, but still have a little bit of flexibility that if your mind changes a little bit, you're not kind of you haven't painted yourself into a corner, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important consideration when if you're planning to go this approach of living in it while you're working on it, you better leave yourself some outs, because you don't know, once you start living in it, you just don't know how that's going to influence what your plan is. Like, boy, I really thought that I was going to want this huge bathroom.
Absolutely.
Now I'm like, I want a closet up here, and this bathroom should be half the size.
That's why
so leave yourself some open-ended stuff.
There might be, I know I was joking around about building an 800 square foot cabinet and stopping, but if really he can't afford, let's say his target is a 3,000 square foot house, if he really can't afford that shell and he wants to experience this place, this land, this property for the next 5-10 years, build that small cabin, and you might be surprised at how your dream changes, because you realize, oh my God, actually I don't need a huge kitchen. I don't need a big living room. Like your living pattern might actually change. You know what I mean? And you haven't invested all this money up front on a perception.
Yeah.
Like you could actually design from a point of experience.
This is a little different than Troy's situation, but it's the same conversation. I know a handful of people now who have built garages with living space up above them as the starting point on their property.
That's my dream.
Yeah, they've moved in and they've lived there while they've built their house, and now they have either an in-law or guest space or a rental space,
Yep.
and what a nice way to be able to live on your job site
Yep.
so that you can work when you want to work, but be separated from it so that you don't run into, the inconveniences of trying to live in a
Yep.
construction site.
Yep.
I think that's a dynamite idea.
The first floor garage is an all-weather shop, essentially.
Yes.
You can have it
Yep.
outfitted with really nice standalone tools if you're so inclined to, so that your life is really easy while, you can build your own kitchen cabinets in a really nice spot instead of like out in the yard.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to be doing on your property, or staging stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I found a great deal on an oven, and I got nowhere to put it because the kitchen's not ready. Well, now I got a spot I can stick it in, and it's not a problem. So I like that. I mean, that's kind of my dream approach. That's the way I would love to do it. I can picture it, but I just,
You can see it.
I can see
Is it
it.
timber framed?
The garage is.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah. Or at least looks like it is.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to wrap up the show for this week. If you have questions or topics you'd like to hear us discuss on an upcoming show, shoot us an email, fhppodcast@taunton.com. Also, if you like the show, hop onto iTunes and share the love with a rating and review. This is a grassroots effort, so it really helps us if you spread the word. And just another reminder, if you're not watching the video on YouTube, we are also now broadcasting videos on YouTube. All right, until next time, this is Justin for Brian and Rob saying happy building.